again. Here is some unscheduled chatter, which I'm endeavouring to do more this year. Not just weekly reporting or regenerative growth business, my partner, also got some up from. If you're here, this is kitchen news / past where I am starting a regenerative farm scratch. It is not in T25, and we are about to send some land and wait to when else here. And then sign the lease and start planting, which is really exciting. This particular piece that I'm writing or speaking right now is inspired by a recent but also recycled post from Colibri Terre Sonnenblum about feeding ourselves out of our vegetable gardens. It's well worth a read, and I've linked it in the show notes. What this piece brought up for me and led to a lively discussion with my partner is how much farmers want you to grow their own food. Let's give you a little backstory here. Let's list my credentials. Over the past 4 years, I've been training on various vegetable farms to get to the point where I am now. Over this time, I've taken every opportunity to talk to other farmers, to learn from them. Something I will continue to do. To exchange ideas and recipes and insights, to soak up all the information I can, to lead towards this very moment. I have trained, read, practiced, took on more and more responsibility, and for the past 2 years, my partner and I managed an organic vegetable farm. And here we finally are, starting our own. Shameless plug, if this feels like something you'd be interested in, you can subscribe, you can follow us on, I think we're on, Spotify, some other podcasting things, and on Substack. But throughout this time, my training, I have often discussed with other farmers what they like growing and what they wish other people grew more of. The food system, as it is here in the US and back home in the UK, is pretty whack, or in fact out of whack. It's cheaper to fly, boat, drive in food than it is to purchase from a local farmer or to even grow your own. It often makes me think of this meme. The meme says, how to grow your own tomatoes. Step 1, devote 3 months of your life to helping them grow. Step 2, that's it, congratulations, you saved $2. It gets me every time. But, as the previous piece said, this delicious meme points out, there is a cost associated with growing our own food. It's not as simple or as cheap as just putting some seeds in the ground, even if the main cost is often time. But of course, there's also the sheer joy of growing your own food, which one could not put a price on. That is to say, there are many sides to this. I also want to mention a good old piece from Sue Senger on how much space it takes to grow your own vegetables. She does some wonderful calculations on how much space you would need for a pound of produce per day. And I honestly have so much love for people trying to look at the problems of our food system head on and to give tangible and calculatable solutions. While I agree that producing your own vegetables is vital, I find it pretty unrealistic to expect people to grow all their own food, especially those who are looking down the barrel of sanctions and food shortages, or at the very least heightened food insecurity. To go from 0 to 100 and to do so in times of housing insecurity is just unrealistic. It's unwise and it's honestly dangerous misinformation to tell people to just grow a victory garden and they'll weather the storm coming our way. Not that Sue is doing this, I'm 100% behind her calculations and her calls to grow your own. But in this, I acknowledge that many people do not have the resources to grow their own food, to buy local produce, to find fresh vegetables within an accessible distance. And in this way, I'm willing to be a traitor to my profession. I think more people should grow their own food, and as a farmer, I encourage people to grow more of their own food. It may seem counterintuitive, as if I'm chasing away customers, but my reasons for this are threefold. Economies of scale. For a lot of crops, and it would be more efficient and cheaper for me, a farmer, to grow them at a much larger scale than a kitchen garden can. This is true of things like lettuce, garlic, tomatoes, onions. For an individual to have 1 head of lettuce every week for most of the growing season, you would need to plant about 30 heads. And for things like lettuce, you can't plant them all at once. To get a consistent flow of lettuce, you would need to plant a couple of plants per week for 15 plus weeks, every other week maybe. You would have to have the space to do that in the garden, the schedule to start a couple of seeds each week, or even more expensively, to buy regular lettuce transplants. A constant supply of lettuce is no mean feat for the home gardener. Whereas farmers, even ones on a small scale such as myself, can easily plant 800 lettuce heads every other week or every week. It's basically one standard 100-foot bed, spacing the lettuces, 4 rows 6 inches apart. A farmer can provide enough salad for 400 salads a week. maybe 300 salads to account for spoilage and pests and people not really feeling salad that week. But that's enough to keep you and 299 others in salad for the whole growing season for as little as $2 a head. The same principle applies to root crops: carrots, daikon, turnips, beetroots, radishes. A 100-foot bed, which is tiny on the farming scale, can produce at least 120 bunches of carrots. Planted consistently, a farmer can provide roots at scale that is hard to replicate in the home garden. This is the same for grains or dried beans. You're going to need a couple of acres grown collectively to give you enough to live on, and that's fine. It's not impossible, as shown by the phenomenal homegrown and hand-gathered, who I've also linked. It's possible, it just isn't the easiest. I say all this not to discourage you, but to point out the case where a farmer would be the ideal person to grow salad or root vegetables for a community instead of each member growing them for themselves. On the other hand, there are some plants that are easier to tend at the kitchen garden scale. Collards, chard, kale. Here are a couple of plants that are all that you need to keep your household stocked with greens for as long as the plants grow that season. I would absolutely love if more of our customers grew more of their own hardy greens. I would feel no remorse hearing that that's what they were doing instead of buying ours. This is also true for peas. For the love of all that is holy, please just grow your own peas. They're so hard to make commercially viable, but they're so delicious. On each farm I've worked on, they've only been grown for love and not money. Or microgreens. You can grow your own microgreens. This may sound like I'm turning away with my customer base, but this couldn't be further from the truth. For one, there will always be people without growing space, and I'm happy to provide for them. For two, many people find that they don't actually like growing certain vegetables, but they won't know that unless they try, and I'm happy to provide for them. And vitally, getting to talk to people about what they're growing is always exciting. And this leads me to my second point: encouraging resilience. Taking a chance on a new variety is not usually at the top of a busy farmer's list of things to do that year, not unless the seed has mysteriously become unavailable. I could rant about this later, or if they have a particularly strong recommendation from another local farmer. But the joy of a home garden is you get to try all the wonderful and weird varieties that farms don't usually have the chance to grow. Personally, while I'm also planning a whole farm, I'm also shopping for Grexi, land races, and cool breeding stock from the Experimental Farm Network for my personal garden. By growing a wide variety of plants, and even members of the same species, in a bioregion, we build resilience in the local food system. The more we experiment with varieties, the chances something will lead to the change climate. Home gardens more diversified farm at the fourth genetic diversity, and thus provide climate. Resilience not just in variety choose, but in many growing many at once. If a has a crop which has become likely a flat climate, having a garden back. Not only do home gardeners get to experiment to have more options in case of disruptions to the food system, but they also get to learn a vital skill. When we learn to grow food, as Roots and Reinforcers pointed out in their piece on behavioural cusps, or gateway hobbies, we open the door to preserving, to learning new varieties, to noticing the local fauna that eats our crops too. Growing food is a gateway to a realm of knowledge, a great inspiration. The more people that know how to grow food, the better equipped our communities will be to weather the coming chaos. My final point is abundance. There have certainly been times in my life where I've caught myself in the capitalist trap of ownership, of gatekeeping, of scarcity. But if working with the land and with the non-human beings and the changing seasons has taught me anything, it's that when we move from abundance, shit just works better. I could spend my time opining about how home gardeners are going to put small farms out of business, or I could look at the shattered food system and think farms of every scale and home gardeners are all essential parts of transforming this system. By taking knowledge of local people and passion hobby and the cunning with sheer joy of cooking, we might think that we'll move from a pivot, which I'm showing to harder and her, the chance to provide for ourselves and others. Tomato plants don't worry about the plant next to us is also the plant next to them is also producing delicious pounds of fruit. They just make their own. Giving freely, and in return, hopefully, we save their seeds, we enjoy their bounty, and we tend to them. This sounds very woo-woo, I know, but moving from a place of abundance, a place of I am enough, this is enough, has helped me to not see myself alone to saving up, which is a very white thing of thinking, but as a small part, a tiny mushroom in a lively mycelial network. If encouraging people to grow their own kale loses me a couple of kale sales, so be it. Say that 5 times fast. If those people eventually come back and tell me a new method for keeping pests away, or if they share some seed or some insight, then it will be worth it. If they come back every year and say they don't love growing kale, but they want to buy it, now they know what goes into keeping the plant happy and pest-free, great. And if they never come back, but they buy a couple seedlings in the spring and encourage their friends to grow their own, that's also fine. This isn't about winning. This is about working together. Overall, I think there's a place for each of us in trauma fooddom. Ecosystem versus as well. By doing your own food or adding history local food, you can start to varieties, experiment and profit yourself and others. If you don't have the capacity, money for your own, there's aim in it. Local farmers want to provide you with fresh, affordable produce. There's room for us, all of us, in this. And in fact, we're all vital components of this tangled food web. Okay, that's my diatribe over. I'm more excited than ever to get growing, and I will be sending some updates pretty soon. See you on the flip side. Bye.